Hello everyone, my name is Alana from Adasa Innovations and I make several Alexa skills, but I've recently just started developing in Bixby. I wanted to kind of make this video for Alexa developers who also want to start developing in Bixby, just so to show you like the differences. But disclaimer, you guys should probably mute your Alexa device because I will be saying Alexa a lot. I've already said it like 4 times. And also I do have braces. I've just taken out my Invisalign and I'm lisping, so I'm sorry about that. So in order to kind of develop in Bixby, you need to go to the bixbydevelopers.com website and then go download the Bixby Developer Studio, which you can in Windows, Mac or Linux. You also need a Samsung account first before you even download it, and then you can sign in and start developing. So what we're going to do is get the Alexa space skill and convert it into a Bixby Capsule. So this is using the Ask SDK version 2, and they've got their handlers in there, their help handlers and all that. With Bixby, you don't need to have, they don't have like the help handler or the exit handler and the other built-in intents. You kind of have to you have to make that yourself, but they're not reliant on you having to build a help handler, for example. So you don't actually have to put a help intent in there. So now we're going to open up the Bixby Studio, which I've already got installed, and this is what we're going to do, the space facts. So before we create the capsule, which I've already got here, I'll just go through each of this. I'll go through the IDE. So this is what you develop Bixby on. You can't use Visual Studio Code or Atom or whatever IDE you use. You need to use the Bixby Studio IDE. And this is the tab you'll be on the most. This is where you can view all your files and capsules. You can have actually loads of capsules open each time, so not just one. You can work on many. It helps when you've done a capsule and then you can look back and like you don't have to like exit the IDE. You can literally just add another one in and then look at the files and compare. That's really helpful. So this tab is the files tab, so that's what you're on right now. This is the one you'll do to open a capsule or create a capsule or create a folder. And then this one is managing your capsules. So at the moment it's syncing this space fact one. So with it being the IDE, every time you like press a space, it syncs. Every time you backspace, it syncs and compiles. So every change you do, it's always constantly compiling to the server. So yeah. Now down here is the simulator. This contains the testing, the Bixby simulator, so you can test what you're doing, testing your capsule. This is the submissions, and if you have a Samsung device, you could actually test on your device by submitting a private submission, and you can create a public and a private. I'm not allowed to do public yet because you're on Playground. But I'll explain that in a minute, and private as well. This button there leads you to the developer center where you can explore, look at the guides, everything. It's really handy. And then settings where you can choose your theme. I like dark, I like colors, love it. So let's create the capsule. So in order to create the capsule, this is what you'll be seeing, this screen here. Literally just open this, create capsule. And then you need to put playground dot and then name it whatever you want, facts, something like that. Obviously, you have to register to get a namespace, but if you're just testing, just use playground and you can test and try it out. So make sure you use playground. They even say here too, until you're ready to submit your own. So this is what you'll have, hopefully. 2 folders and 1 file. That's all you'll have. The folders are empty. I forgot to say, this is your warning. Errors and warnings. So as you can see, it tells me all my warnings. You'll always get warnings because they keep updating stuff, and already things are getting depreciated. So already the runtime flags are depreciated, and in order to get rid of them, just add what they're telling you to add. So they're saying add a no filtering and validation. But for now, you don't need to worry about that because we're only testing. But obviously when you're submitting your capsule, then you can like add it in. So how I go about it is kind of the same way as Alexa. So I build my model first. And the best thing about Bixby is that it is model driven. So rather than being code driven, like on Amazon, with the space skill, you're coding all the intents. This is more model driven. So, and this is why I don't understand. They don't have a models folder. You have to make it. So make a model folder, call it models, and then make 2 more folders. For this, you don't need to make folders, but for your other Bixby capsules, it'll be helpful to make 2 folders inside the model folders because there'll be a lot more files. So just for practice, make one folder called actions and another one called concepts. Now think of actions like intents in Alexa. So in terms of the fact skill, you'll have an intent called get fact intent, for example. And that's the same with your action. And then for concepts, think of that like the slot type. So if you had a fact skill that could do multiple facts on different topics, and you had like, tell me a space fact, tell me a food fact, then those are like your concepts. You would have a concept like fact type, and you'd do the same in concepts and everything else. But in this case, because we're not having a slot and we're literally just containing the space facts. So if I bring up the Alexa skills and I go to their space facts here, because I literally just have these, I don't need a slot. So I don't really need that to make a concept for that. But I still need to add something in the concepts folder because concepts are not just lots. Therefore, all your inputs and outputs. And that probably sounds confusing because it confused me to start off with. So how it helped, what I did, I'd always start off with the action first. So to make an action, you go to new, model, and then you have the action template here, but you also can select different ones. But obviously you're making an action, you need to select action. And again, remember it's an intent, so get fact. So think of the action as the goal. Your goal is to get a fact. And we can fill this out now. So description, give user a fact. Like I said, there's nothing that the user needs to say apart from an utterance, which we don't put in the model. So that's the big difference between Alexa and Bixby. In this model folder, you do not put your utterances in here. I'll show you where you put them later. So you can delete this whole input section. But what you do need to put in your action is the type. So in this case, if I press escape, it comes up with the different types that you could have for your action. And you will most likely be using search. When you're doing these sorts of Bixby capsules, search is the one that you'll probably use. And then your output. So our output is obviously to get a fact. So literally, our output is to give the user a fact. So I'm literally going to put fact because get fact, the main goal is to give a fact. If that makes sense. It's erroring because we haven't made it yet. And you make that in the concepts folder because concepts is everything to do with all the inputs and outputs. So the goals of your actions. So like I said, if we did have a slot called fact type, you would make a concept called fact type. So I'm going to make a concept here, model, and this time it's not an action. It's not going to be a Boolean decimal. It's going to be a string, but they have a text one, which is probably the closest to string. So I'm going to call that fact. And then my description is the fact, or the chosen fact. It doesn't matter. The description is just for you. It's like no one else is going to see it. So once we've done that, we've got our action, which is the get fact action. And we've got a concept, which is only one concept, which is fact and model. Now we have to do the code. That's what I do anyway. I don't bother with utterances until I finish the code. So that's the model done. We then need to go to the resources, because this is where everything from when you write your utterances and your endpoint will go. So you go to resources, it's empty, new, folder, and you need to do an en. Because basically with Bixby, it's also in Korea. So by writing an en folder, it can kind of separate that from an English skill to a Korean skill. I'm so capsule. From a Korean capsule to an English capsule. So then you go and you say new endpoints. I normally call my endpoint just endpoint. And I create it. So the best thing about Bixby is if you didn't want to make a local endpoint, so one in this IDE here, you can have a remote endpoint. But again, they recommend using a local one. So I'm going to do it the way that they've recommended, which is here. So this is where for every action you make, you need to make for every functioning action you make, you need to make an endpoint for it. So if you had 2 actions, you'd make 2 of these action endpoints here, and you'd just copy and paste it like that and have the action names and stuff. But for now, we just have 1. And our action name is, if we go to models action, it's called get fact. So let me just name it get fact. Then our accepted inputs, remember I removed the inputs because we don't need it, so we don't need that. And now we need to give the name of our local endpoint. Realistically, you just call it the same, but with a .js. Obviously it doesn't exist yet, so let's go make it. So we go to code, new, action JavaScript. So this is like JS. And then we say get fact. And this is what we have as a starting point. I'm going to make another JS file for just the facts, just to make it easier. So I'm just gonna make a lib folder, even though I don't need to. It's probably best if I just didn't. And I'll just call that facts. I'm now going to get the facts from the skill. So I'll just grab that and paste it here. Obviously, I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need it, and get rid of that. We don't need all of that. And I'll just say, just export I'll just export it like that. And then, so now we're going to edit this so we can require in our facts. So I'm going to go const facts and just require in equals require dot lib facts dot js. And I'm also going to require in a console so I can console log. So I'm literally going to go var console equals require console. And this is how you can use console.log in Bixby. Now we don't need this, so I'm going to delete that. And then I can then just be like console.log hello world, and that will work fine. So now that I've required everything in, I'm just going to go let fact, then just get a random fact. So let index equals facts.length. Then we want to do math.random, and then view. And then we can just go fact equals facts, and then where's the index? And then all we need to do, I just want to console.log to check we are getting a fact in, and then return fact. And that is all you need to do to get your fact. So now we're going to do the utterances, but they call it training. So the whole utterance thing that you do with your intents, you do it in here. So you go to resources, en, training, and training is the where you input all the utterances, all the things you think the user's going to say. So this is the screen that we get. In this sense, I will say, give me a fact. And once you press enter, you get this. You need to tell it what kind of intent you're referring to. So the goal, obviously the action I'm referring to is get fact. Remember, models action get fact, and it's going to be no specialization because I don't expect it to be a continuation of any other action or a prompt for any other objects or whatever. So I'm going to save that, and I'll have another one, tell me a fact. Again, my goal is literally just get fact, and I'll save that, and then I'll just be like tell me a space fact, and again get fact is what I'm going to do. I'm going to then compile, which is kind of the same as build model, and click that, and it should learn it. It's learned it. Now we can actually test it. So we go here to open the simulator, and you can see that's what we want. Yay. Tell me a fact. If this works, this will be a miracle because nothing ever works first time for me.
Found.
Oh, brilliant. Here's what I found. On Mars, the sun appears about half the size, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it worked. But what I've realized, as you can see, with it being on the phone, it does, APL on Alexa, you have views for Bixby. But I won't delve into that in this video. This is literally just to show you more of the workflow. So the next video I'll make will probably be about like the inputs, so you can see how the user's input is taken. But yeah, as you can see, if I say it again,
here's what I found.
Another one. And here's what I found. This is what she says. You can obviously change what it says again in dialogue, and I'll go through that again in the next video. But I literally just wanted to do a quick video for people who obviously are doing Alexa and they want to know how to kind of work in Bixby. I hope it helped a little bit. I'll make another video if people want me to, and if you have any questions, please write them in the comments below. I'm also new to this as well, so I'm really pleased with the progress that I've made. I've actually done a quiz, so I can also show you that as well later on. But yeah, I guess that's all for now. So this has been Alana signing out.